Weightlifters have this elitist mentality. When you go to the gym and you pick up a dumbbell, barbell, do some machine honest to God, I want to just take a microphone and... All right, guys. So today's video, I want to talk about Dom Mazzetti. And if you guys don't know who Dom Mazzetti is, you're not a gym bro. Well, I don't know. Maybe you're new to this whole thing, but Dom Mazzetti is just like this character that this guy plays, and it's just complete gym bro culture stuff. What I think is awesome about his stuff is like there's always something that rings a little true. I think just comedy in general it's not really effective if there isn't some truth to it. And his little rant, obviously it's just a character, it's not a real dude, but his little rant about Olympic weightlifting actually is somewhat valid. I made a comment on this Instagram video just saying, he's not wrong. A lot of the things he says, like, they might be built up frustrations that I have being a weightlifter or coaching weightlifters, but again, there's truth behind it.
Olympic lifters are like homeschool kids whose strict-ass parents forced them to play the cello. No, not the violin, because that might actually be useful one day, but the cello. A giant fucking violin that you gotta hug to play because your parents didn't hug you. So now while all the kids at school are talking about DJs with no talent, you're talking about fucking Mozart. And while all the bros at the gym are talking about curls for the girls, you're talking about how much you can snatch. Which, let me tell you, ain't the same as how much snatch you can get. We get it. You're disproportionate.
Okay, so basically, and this is something I've noticed too, is like weightlifters have this elitist mentality, and that's 100% because of the technicality of the lifts. Regardless of your athletic prowess, the technique that it takes to snatch very well and clean and jerk very well, it's noticeable, right? The technique that it takes to squat very well, not very much technique. I'm sorry, a lot of powerlifters are probably really angry about that. Squat, benching, and deadlifting, not so technical. Snatching and clean and jerking, incredibly technical. So what you get is the people who want to put the effort towards the technique are going to be stronger in the snatch and the clean and jerk than just your average gym bro who goes in and is very strong from the jump. And this is kind of like where you get that geeky idea of a weightlifter. And I do think of the strength sports, it's one of the more geeky sports on the lower end, right? Because once the rubber meets the road in competition, the athlete, the competitor, the gamer is going to rise to the top. But yes, the geekiness in weightlifting is palpable.
Yeah, we get it. You're disproportionately strong for your size. What do you think, you're going to the f***ing Olympics? Saying you're an Olympic lifter because you do Olympic lifts is like saying you're an Olympic swimmer because you swim in an Olympic pool. And do not tell me it's called weightlifting. We're all weightlifting.
Okay,
Every time you lift a weight, you're weightlifting.
Like, I have this conversation all the time. Obviously, there's the thing where it's like, it's not called Olympic weightlifting, it's just called weightlifting. Like, that's the snobbiest response of most weightlifters have, right? Because the truth is, this sport is, people compete in this sport everywhere outside of the Olympics. There's world weightlifting championships. The federation is called the International Weightlifting Federation. I could go to a local meet and it's not called an Olympic weightlifting meet because that would require the Olympics to happen. So what he's saying is like, that's like saying you're a swimmer or you're an Olympic swimmer because you swim in an Olympic-sized pool. And it sucks because this is the misnomer. For one thing, like, powerlifting isn't actually a display of power. It's a display of force production. And power is usually along the lines of rate of force production, so your increase of power output. And the snatch and the clean and jerk are always going to have higher power outputs or rate of force production than those of the power lifts. So, the sport, if anything, should be called powerlifting, and then powerlifting should be called weightlifting or strength lifting or whatever. But this is what we're given. The crazy thing is, if this sport is out of the Olympics and we continue to call it Olympic weightlifting, how fucking weird will that be? And another thing too, it's like, what do you think, you're going to go to the Olympics is what Dom says. Is like, well, for me, it matters if this sport is not in the Olympics. And for those of you who don't understand what I'm talking about, There's a ton of corruption that has been uncovered recently. A lot of different drug tests and things like that. Also being a sport that not many people care about. If I walk down 6th Street right now in Austin and I say, hey, the sport of weightlifting, what is it? 99 out of 100 people will not be able to explain what that means. What the sport of weightlifting. If I said Olympic weightlifting and they had to answer it correctly, what that is, I would say it lessens it a little bit more, but 90% of the people are going to say, what is that? Is there bench pressing? Is that like the powerlifting or the deadlifting stuff? You know, people just, they don't know our sport, even though it's vastly different than weight room sports. I've always said it's closer to like throwing. It is closer to the track and field sports than it is, oh, it's more Dom Mazzetti back there. Than it is the, anything else in the weight room with powerlifting, strongman, things like that. So this misnomer actually ends up fucking with us because people don't know what this sport is. And taking it out of the Olympics sucks. In my opinion, it sucks. A lot of people think just because there's corruption, there's doping, it all, screw the Olympics, screw the IOC, the IWF. Not for me. Like, the Olympics still holds a special place in my heart. Everyone, at this time and age, everyone's like, oh, they're all on drugs, they're all corrupt, they're all this. It's like, I still have, I guess, that optimistic mentality about, the Olympic rings and the symbolism and competing for one's country. And to have this sport be at the upper echelon of all of the strength sports, this is the only one. It matters to me, and it would be a shame if we had to see it go.
Every time you lift a weight, you're weightlifting. Every time you pick up a weight, weightlifting. That's like saying, yeah, I play sports when all you do is play intramural frisbee. A lot of respect for these guys, though. I am going to the Olympics, though, for curling. Not like Canadian bowling, but like bicep curling.
Yeah, that's
taking home 2 goals.
That, again, with the misnomer thing, like, that's the part. Is like, we call it weightlifting. Is like, what? I'm going to the gym to do weightlifting. Everyone, when you go to the gym and you pick up a dumbbell, barbell, do some machine, you're weightlifting. And yet we coined our sport that. I don't know. It's like, so far he's like really accurate. Like, really, really deadly accurate. It's just comedy, but for me, that misnomer thing, I think, honest to God, I want to just take a microphone and go down 6th Street like the other YouTubers do and ask what Olympic weightlifting is and see what the say. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Super quick, simple video. See ya.